Let's go.
And what's up, everybody? Sean here with another live Live to Roll video. This week, we're going to be talking about walking after your injury, and we got a pretty full house here this week. We got a few guests of friends of mine and friends of the Triumph Foundation, which has been a pretty recurring theme on our stream. But the three people we have today, or I'll do just, you know what, I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves. I'll just real quick. My name's Sean, C5 C6 squad. I started Live to Roll a while ago. And Tom, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everybody. Back Tom Conaway, C5, C6 Quad. One of Sean's good buddies. Here to talk about walking after a spinal cord injury. Bobby?
Yeah, hey guys, welcome back, and glad you can join us. Hopefully I won't have any power issues today and get bumped off like last week. I heard you did too, Tom, but my name is Bobby Rohan, and I'm a C5-6 complete. Well, there was no chance of that little walk-in, but I'm a complete injury for 31 years from a bicycle accident.
Nice. So, if you three walkers, who wants to be first to introduce yourself?
I'll go first. Howdy,
okay.
howdy, partners from Texas. Hey guys, I'm Hector, aka Juice. I'm a L1, L3 incomplete. My injury was December 19, 2009. It was pinched nerve. Woke up one day, my legs were tingling. Woke up like this, kind of like that Beyonce song. I woke up like this. Yeah, I woke up like this. It's been great. That's it. Who's next?
Go ahead, Robert. All right. My name's Robert Soto. I'm a T12 incomplete. Motorcycle racing accident, 1974. Post-injury now, 46 years. Luis.
Nice. Okay. My name is Luis Otomoro. I'm an L3, L4 incomplete. I was a derrick hand on an oil rig up in North Dakota. There was a crash, and I got ejected from the oil rig. And that was 39 years ago. And I do walk.
Wow.
So, who's next? Where are we going to carry on?
Well, first of all, you guys are kind of the stars of the show today. So thank you for joining us. And we're here to talk about, something that's a little bit different theme from the show, which is walking after spinal cord injury. So, for those of you who don't know, trauma to the spinal cord is very varied and different for every person, which we do talk about a lot. But there are that spectrum of spinal cord injuries, all the way from high-level quads to low-level paras that, get enough return or recovery due to the incompleteness of the injury to regain mobility and function to a pretty high degree. And these three guys are living, breathing examples of that. So we're here to kind of talk about it. And if maybe we want to get started, just like Luis explain his injury, but maybe explain how your injury happened, and then a little bit of the journey to your recovery. How long it took to kind of bounce back initially. Whether or not you're still along that journey. And whatever you might want to add.
And kind of if you were walking right away, or how long it took after your injury that you felt comfortable walking, and things like that.
All right. I'll start.
Yeah.
So my injury was not a traumatic injury per se. It was basically off of an addiction. I was a drug addict. So being as big as I was, and with a pinched nerve, it was just like the perfect storm. So like I said, I woke up one day and legs were tingling, they were numb. And instead of going to the hospital right away, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'll just wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow came, and it's like, I'll just wait till tomorrow. Finally, one day, I just didn't have sensation. I went to the hospital. They said I had a nerve, a bone structure of an 80-year-old. I had emergency back surgery, but because I hesitated and I waited for so long to go to the hospital, I had a lot of nerve damage, so I was partially paralyzed. I had back surgery. From there on, I had my rehab. I was able to walk the first, I think I took 2 steps in rehab. When I was able to take majority of the steps was maybe about 6 months afterwards. And every year I started getting more strength. Walking with KAFOs, walker, then arm crutches to a cane. Right now, I can walk without AFOs or without a cane, but I feel more comfortable using a cane. If it's long distance, I'll use my AFOs. But even from now, like you mentioned, Robert, the struggles that we did before, I still struggle now because I see myself as disabled, but a lot of people don't see me as disabled, and I can relate, but they don't think I can relate. And I guess we'll go a little bit more further with that, but it's been 10 years, and I don't think I'll feel comfortable with my injury right now, like 100%. I'm comfortable with me, but I don't think I still kind of care what people think or what they say. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and definitely, I'm sure we're going to want to get into how does others with SCI view you guys. So let's get with Robert. Tell us a little bit about you and after your injury, or.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my injury was in 1974, racing motorcycles, just primarily as a hobby. I've done it pretty much most of my life at that time. And so when I had my injury, it was T12. I punctured, bruised, and compressed the spinal cord. Did the whole thing. Ended up at Rancho. Went through a few hospitals, intensive care, and things like that. Went to Rancho. Was there in bed rest for 3 months with body casts and just the whole thing, letting it heal. Once I started getting a little more rehab coming along, my right leg was still pretty active. I had a lot of quad control in there, some hip extensors or hip flexions and all that stuff. So my right leg was still pretty active. The left side was not. So they started working with me, getting me to build up my legs and putting me on standing frames and all that. Therapy started in about that fourth, fifth month there, putting me on crutches. I used a KFO and an AFO, the long leg on the left brace, the long leg brace on the left leg, and then the AFO on the right. And so that was interesting because, they were standing you up a lot on the standing frame. Then they'd start having you do a little few steps here and there. They put me on a walker, but I could not handle the walker. I had a problem with lifting, trying to balance myself and stand, and then trying to move the walker forward. I couldn't do that. And I struggled with that, so they ended up just putting me on the forearm crutches, and I was a little more successful on that. But with my injury, also being a lower level like that, I had issues with bowel and bladder as well. So that was always an issue too when they were standing me up and things like that. So I always had to be conscious that I practiced a program that worked for me, and that wasn't always successful. But the therapy, I was in the hospital probably roughly 6 months or whatever. So it was every day, it was 3-4 times getting up a day on the crutches. And it was, it was a struggle. I mean, it's just like one of those things where, some doctor was saying, it's going to be too physically demanding. You're not going to be able to do it. But, you're young. I was like 19. So, I was gonna go for it, right? And that's just the mentality I had. But it was a struggle, and it's still today now as I get older. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it's a struggle now. I mean, I need to stand up to get in and out of my vehicle, and I still walk around the house a little bit from the garage to the truck and things like that. But nothing like I used to, because I used to be on the crutches and braces, and I wasn't fooling anybody. I mean, there was crutches and braces. Once I didn't have the braces on, I could not stand at all. I mean, when I was younger and that, but to actually be functional and to say I was ambulatory, I had to have crutches and braces. So I wasn't like, I know Juice and Luis, they have great mobility. I see them get around, and like Juice was saying, people really don't see them as disabled as how they feel or whatever. But for me, it was, I wasn't fooling anybody. If I got out of my truck and walked away, people knew I had a disability. So it lasted for quite a while, and then now in the recent years is where I'm really struggling with walking now and relying on the wheelchair a whole lot more. But prior to this recent history, I was on the crutches 95% of the time.
Definitely we'll talk about that too. What you felt like was you still use the wheelchair, and we know a little bit of your story, and we'd love for the audience to hear it, Luis. But I know oftentimes you talk about you didn't use a wheelchair, nothing, for a long time. You actually didn't even hang out with anyone who had a spinal cord injury for a while. So let's hear about your story, and then we can maybe talk about what you use now and how much do you use wheelchair versus braces versus nothing.
I'm sorry, that's Robert or me?
You.
Okay. Well, like I said, I was injured on an oil rig up in North Dakota, and I actually flew through the air 100 feet in the air and 50 feet out and landed on the frozen ground. And that relates to how long it took me to get walking, because I had a lot of crush injuries. I had broken legs, broken limbs. I had to wear a body jacket just like Robert did. I had casts on all 4 limbs that had to have multiple surgeries throughout the year. So without the crush injuries, I may have started walking, just a few months after my injury. But with all the crush injuries, they didn't want me to bear any weight on my back or any of my limbs. Not after all that, metal that went into the body. They wanted everything to heal up correctly. So it was about a year before they allowed me to, get into physical therapy and start walking again and go through the process like Robert did. They got me on KAFOs with hip extensions. I was on those for maybe a few weeks. And then I went to Rancho Los Amigos like Robert did as well. And then they switched me over to KAFOs. And those lasted a few weeks as well, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And then from that point on, it's just been a series of AFOs of every conceivable type.
For someone who's a little less familiar with KAFOs and AFOs like myself, do you mind explaining them a little bit more?
Absolutely. So a KAFO is a knee, ankle, foot orthesis. An orthesis is an orthotic brace that stabilizes a limb. So where an amputee would have a prosthetic, someone with paralysis would be more likely to wear an orthotic device, a brace. An AFO is an ankle-foot orthesis.
So you graduated from having the knee part to just having the ankle and the foot part, kind of.
Exactly. So you go from having a leg brace that covers your entire leg down to a leg brace that comes from the knee down to the foot. So you have that stability. You can see here mine are broken. And actually, while I was at Rancho, in that second year when I first started walking, they made me 19 sets of AFOs. Fortunately, I had an insurance that would pay for that. But
do you wear on both feet?
Both feet, bilateral AFOs, which means both legs. And this is a polypropylene brace, which is of a certain thickness. Let's see if I can get that in there. But you can see the thickness. It gives you stability. This, instead of having the back, they bring it around the front so you can lean into it. There's some holes here. You can see where they put a strap. We have Velcro straps that hold these things on. These are custom braces, and in the world of walkers and spinal cord injury walkers and orthotics, you're going to see a lot of different types of braces and strapping mechanisms and all kinds of things. So while I was a patient at Rancho, I actually went to school at Cerritos College and took the orthotics and prosthetics program and became a patient volunteer at Rancho so that I could learn about what I'm going to have to wear for the rest of my life.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's great. And Robert, I know I see you around. It looks like you're only one, and that might be a KFO.
Yeah, well, I actually wear two braces. The left leg has the KAFO, which is from the thigh, it straps at the thigh and all the way to the hole to the foot. And what I have on the right is also an AFO, which is what Luis just displayed. But on KAFO, it's got a locking knee. So when I stand up, what helped me was because of my right leg was functional, so it was easier to stand up lots of times. But I still had to use my shoulders and arms and everything. But once and all that stuff.
Hey Robert, we just never mind. We're back live again, but that you got cut off. The stream froze.
Okay.
And ended for a minute. I had to restart the stream. So I'm sorry. I was trying to stop you, but about the last 30 seconds or a minute.
No worries.
It froze on the stream. I don't know. I think it's because we have more people, or I don't know. My internet's just not working as good. So apologize to all the viewers. And whoops, we're not even on the main screen.
It's all COVID's fault.
Sorry, yeah, it's COVID's fault.
It's COVID.
Sorry about that, guys.
COVID.
Anybody that's re-clicking in live or on here live again, I'm sorry about that. We are live again. So, Robert, sorry about you got cut off, but we can get back. If you want to kind of cover a little bit of what you just said, I'm not sure exactly where it froze on you.
Yeah, I could sum it up. I had a long leg brace, which Luis was talking about, a KAFO. And that was my left leg because I didn't have any muscle movement or any muscle in that leg. So I relied on a fixed brace once I was standing up to remain locked. And if it wasn't locked properly and I put my weight on it, I would fall. So it was just being conscious of that all the time, and it kind of just stiff leg it through to swing it through. But the right leg allowed me a lot of mobility, like going up and down stairs. So in a nutshell, that was it.
And how about you, Juice?
I started with a KFO on my left leg, which was the weakest leg, and a AFO on the right. However, the left leg was the weakest one in sensation-wise, but it was my strongest one when it came to strength. I don't know how that happens.
The body's the thing. That's how it happens.
Yeah. So then after about 6 months to a year, I graduated to AFO, so I cut the KFO off, the top part of it, and I was just wearing AFOs. But I slowly stopped wearing them on purpose because they were inconvenience, and also because I had so many shoes that I didn't want to get them all messed up with the brace, and it widens it out, and I was like, I'm just gonna see what I can do. But
gotta protect the kicks. I like it.
I did. But
well, and I know when Juice moved out to Texas, he had a U-Haul just for his shoes. So
I did.
If that's telling you anything.
Hey, that's my favorite thing about quadriplegia is, my shoes stay fresh all the time. I feel you, man. Like, it's all good.
It was like
they're
Jesus
right
talking.
there in the closet. You can see it. They're right there.
Nice.
There it is. Yeah.
So now, so I do use. I don't use them right now daily. I'm okay walking. I don't walk a lot. If I go somewhere, I'm like, all right, I can just walk from here to there. If it's a long distance, then I'll get on my chair. But the only times that I do use the AFOs are if I go to the gym and I do a specific type of workout. Because I know that if I work on my legs, I will use an AFO, because if not, my legs just Bambi legs.
Yeah.
Baby giraffe legs. I just start tumbling down.
Yeah.
But the funny part is that one day, I was not wearing my AFOs. This was when I first started not wearing them, and I walked into a GNC, and then the guy, first thing he tells me is, "Leg day?" It's like, no, I'm disabled.
Because you were walking like you were.
Because I was walking like I was like, yeah. But they work. They work. They my ankles were weak and they stood me up. I'm a big guy, and that Lego, that Lego plastic thing actually did its job. So right now I have them for emergency wise.
So we have a couple questions. One was any muscle spasms. Yeah, issues during your recovery. So obviously you still had probably the same spasms during the recovery. And then also about sensation and sitting and any tingling, tightening when you're sitting for a long periods of time, or do you have to get up all the time?
Who wants to start first?
Go ahead, Louis. Go ahead, Louis.
Myself, basically, I have my routine down for. I don't take any medications at all. I don't take pain medications, muscle relaxers, or anything. I do everything through diet, activity, nutritional supplements, things like that. And with that, I learned that from Bobby will know, and Robert, Dr. Komar, Eston Komar at Rancho Los Amigos taught me this about using that to get your pain down to a dull roar. Because I don't really have spasms at my level, but I do have cramps. So what we call the cramps is kind of like a pain spike, a flare. And so most days, everything's at a dull roar. I can tolerate it with my regular regime of diet and vitamins and everything. And then occasionally I'll get that flare or that spike where I'll have to take a medication and, deal with it that way. And usually it lasts a relatively short time, a few days. So I might be out of it for a couple of days where I'm not real functional, but most of the time I can deal with that.
You know what? For me, what helped is changing my diet. I've noticed that. For the last year, when I changed my diet into whole foods, I've noticed that I have not gotten any. They're not spasms. I call them nerve pains, and it's kind of like being shocked, like like you have all these shock waves all over your body.
A taser.
And right now, I want to knock on wood because it's been over a year since I've had one. But when they come, just like you said, Luis, 2 days and I'm done. Don't talk to me. I start kicking. Luckily, I had a king size bed and I wasn't, I was able to kick and not hurt her. But it's when it comes, it comes, and it doesn't matter how many baclofen or gabapentin I take. I just breathe and meditate and do whatever I can. But nutrition actually helped a lot. And if I drink a lot, the next day it starts. So
and we talk about that a lot on this channel with our nutrition and how important it is for any spinal cord, and just in general, nutrition is always a key sign of having good awareness of your body, and it helps with so many things and keeping yourself fit and also just flowing correctly, with bowel, bladder, whatever it may be. So
exactly.
Inflammation is one of the biggest factors affecting like neuropathy and like nerve pain. Eating a bunch of processed fast foods, unhealthy foods, inflammation occurs throughout your entire body. And being able to get to more natural, good, healthier stuff, lots of greens, lots of veggies, natural fiber, natural meats, like lots of like processed, preserved stuff. It's amazing how that swelling, that bloated, that kind of like inflamed feeling that you get throughout your whole body will dissipate and go away. Like getting your metabolism to change, over a few months would make a world of difference for real.
Yep.
And it's cheaper too to cook your own food.
Over long term, absolutely. Learn how to shop right now.
Eat well, be active, be conscious and aware. What you guys are saying is absolutely true. It can help with your general pain, your cramps, your spasms, your bowel, and your bladder. You guys are going to hate me for this. Everybody hates me anyway, so I'm cool with it. But I've had 3 UTIs in 39 years.
What?
Wow.
That's it. I've only had 3. And that's due to being told, following what I was told at the hospital. If you do X, Y, and Z and you're religious about it and you take care of your health and your nutrition, you can take care of yourself. And the fewer UTIs you have, the better you're going to do in the long term. and it's come true.
Yep.
Yeah. So
that
let
is
me
actually-
ask the biggest burning
Yeah, I was gonna
burning
go for it,
question.
Bobby. I think you're gonna ask the same thing I was gonna ask.
I have the burning question. So do you feel like it might be a little bit different than yours, Sean, but so how do you feel hanging around us who are complete? We can't get up, even to go get a drink of water, sometimes stuck in bed and looking at that wheelchair going, oh man, the work it's gonna take to get in our chair and do something and then get back out of our chair. So what's it like hanging around us? I mean, do you feel guilty? Do you,
Let me ask you a question. Do you
Yeah.
get out of your bed and into your chair?
do I get out of my bed into my chair?
Yes. Do you?
I don't have to, but I don't have to.
Okay, but do you? Are you out of your bed right now into your chair?
Yeah.
So you're doing what you have to do. So I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah.
That's good.
But you know, it is because, you know, it seems like from the beginning, you know, just trying to get through the whole traumatic piece, but you do what you need to do, you know, you figure things out. And yeah, it's the same thing for me because my transfers and things like that, once, like I said, I'm not walking around all the time, but you know, the transfers are towards the end of the day and you get everything, try to get everything coordinated right. And then you get into bed and you go, oh man, I got to get up and, you know. So for me, being around the disability community in the last few years, it's been probably just a couple years that I've got reacquainted with it. And I kind of got so disconnected from it because I was doing my life, you know, working and all that kind of stuff. And so I enjoy it because now I have a lot of my friends, there's just maybe a few of them that kind of know what I'm all about in terms of what my needs are and things like that. Being around you guys, quad or para, it doesn't matter. You have somebody that already understands. There's no explaining anything or whatever. Just like when we're on support groups or just, you know, just when we're talking in the hallway someplace, whatever, it's a whole different vibe. And so I even was watching, I got turned on to Sean's Live to Roll because I was having issues with transferring. I was just trying to get ideas on what I need to do that might help me. And so I was watching his transfers and things like that. Or I was talking to Bobby about different things that we had just with bowel and bladder and things like that. So, you know, you share things. I don't do that with my regular buddies, my other buddies or whatever you want to call them, you know. They don't have a clue.
Yeah. And most of them aren't our able-bodied family and friends and peers aren't really interested. They'll hear a little bit, but if you get too detailed, their eyes glaze over.
Yeah, they can't comprehend
on themselves.
People can relate. I think I have a lot of them. So what you guys go through, I feel like, is, you know, disability, but in a little bit more of like an invisible sense. You know, you deal with a lot of the bladder and the bowel issues. You deal with a lot of the mobility issues. You know, maybe in a less like severe spectrum, but nonetheless still significantly. And yet, society kind of, and everybody sees you as like, hey man, like, you don't look that disabled, you know?
Yeah.
Still dealing with neuropathy pain. You're still dealing with, you know, like a lot of the same struggles. But, you know, you're not really given that much, you know, like, hey man, like, what are you doing? Like, it doesn't seem like, you know, you're that disabled. So why are you sitting there struggling that hard, you know? Or why are you sitting there complaining? So, you know, I think everybody struggles, you know, in different ways, you know, all the time, right? Like I see ventilated quads, and I talk to, you know, a couple of guys that I know are like C2, C3 quads, and you know, like that's something I kind of felt a little bit guilty about at times, or you know, like struggle with myself. But you know, a lot of them are like Russ, and you know, a couple other guys I know are out there living their lives, you know, more extreme than I do sometimes, you know. And like I use that to kind of give myself a little bit of perspective. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
You know, here's this guy, you know, in a worse situation than I am, you know, with more to overcome than I do. You know, he's out there with a better attitude, doing more shit than I do. And like I'd like use that to kind of light my own fire, and you know, like to kind of just give myself a little bit of perspective. Like, hey man, not only could this be worse, but you know, like look, like at what he's doing and like what you could be.
And you know, you know what's crazy? Here's the thing though. People may see Russ, but may not know him. But they may know you. And you, Tom, what you're doing, what you just said, they're inspired by what you're doing. Now they want to do something for themselves. and it's a ripple effect. Now, somebody else is going to watch them,
so
it's like
carry that forward.
But it's also the public's perception too, because like for me, when I was up on crutches and braces, and I'd go into a DMV or something like that, no issues. You know, I'd do my thing, get what I need, and get out of there. This past year or so, I had to go into the DMV for the real ID thing, and I went in my wheelchair, changed the whole thing. All of a sudden, you know, even though I wasn't fooling anybody with crutches and braces, but the perception of walking, you know, like some of my buddies go, because I'd go to a hotel or something like that, and I couldn't get into the bathroom, and I'd have to change the room because they go, well, can't you just get in? How come you couldn't just stand? I go, well, I have to wear braces. They go, well, can't you get in there with that? I go, well, they'll get all wet. Once I take them off, I can't stand. And so, you know, there's some people that had to learn that way, but it's a lot of the public's perception. You know, they see somebody standing or even on crutches, they may think you have a broken leg or whatever. You know, but it is a perception.
Get out of a regular car into a wheelchair. You know, they're like, I'm like this person, like they don't have the whole like lift, they don't have the whole deal. You know, like they stand for a minute, but they don't understand the difficulty of walking across a parking lot. The risk.
You know,
and you
know what? I sometimes, and I hate doing this, but I have to act more disabled than what I am. When I get out of my car and I get my chair from the back of my truck. Yeah, you know what? Because like, oh, why are you parking in that spot? Even though I try not to park in the handicap spot because I want it for somebody that needs it. But there's times where I'm tired and I can't. So I do. And I just have to I have to act more disabled than what I am, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to deal with the people.
Yeah, because I kind of often see, in fact, that happened the other day. My wife and I noticed lady parked right next to us. She was watching me get into my my car seat, and it's, I'm just kind of taking my time. And next thing I know, she's just waiting in her car, and finally she just probably was in a hurry. She like gets out and walks just fine. And yeah, it's like, oh yeah, no one, you were waiting. You didn't want me to see you walk so easy.
Yeah. But you do get a lot of people waiting when you park in the handicap parking, and especially if you're going to get out when you get out the regular door, your front door, or whatever. People are waiting, so lots of times I'm aware of that, and they want to see what you're going to do, and so I'll get out. For me, I get out and stand up, but that's all I do. I stand up and then I'm holding on, pulling the chair out. But they wait to make sure, or sometimes I'll get into my truck from the grocery store, get myself all set, pull the placard down. I sit there for a little bit, and people are giving me weird looks, like saying, "What are you doing parking in a handicapped parking spot?" When I, just a few seconds before I took the placard off. But they're curious, and some, maybe have some other agenda or whatever. But it's the perception. Everything is about perception. The public sees us.
I actually asked people if they would like to watch me put my wheelchair in the trunk, because some guy will be trying to impress his girlfriend or something and say, "Oh, hang on a second, I'm going to go help the cripple guy." And he'll run over and say, "Sir, here, let me help you with that wheelchair." And I said, "Well, I got to do it a certain way. Let me show you how it's done." And then I do it, and the guy just walks away either totally deflated or totally inspired. He's like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that's how it worked." Because I put my chair in the trunk.
Yeah.
And then I walk around to the driver's door, and people are like, "Why do you need the spot?" Because there's 20 spots, and the only available spot is 300 yards that way.
And the risk of.
Yeah, and lots of times it doesn't matter anyway, because they some people crowd the space anyway. So you try to give yourself as much room so you don't park too far into the crossbars. But there's times where people have parked so close to me, or they come over the blue line, whatever, and you got to wait, or you got to get somebody to, Luckily, I haven't had to wait too long because I need to get my door open all the way for me to get in, and so lots of times I'll have to put my wheelchair in the back of the truck bed and get the crutches from the other side. I mean, it's an ordeal. Trust me, it's an ordeal.
What percentage of time would you guys say you use the chair versus walking? Or
rock and roll, dude.
For me, it's been less chair now than it was before. I only use a chair if I go, to the mall. If I go somewhere where I know I'm gonna
Just anywhere there
for
were
a long period of time.
like serious walking, like longer.
I use it at the gym sometimes because I feel more comfortable working out in the gym because of my balance wise, depending on what I'm going to work out on.
Okay.
But yeah, not as much.
Yeah.
Wait,
Now,
don't tell
tell
that to my social worker.
funny story I had with Juice. We were doing a poker tournament a couple of years ago, and we went to Costco or Sam's Club, and I'm like, no, you don't need your wheelchair. We're just getting a couple things, and I knew we were going all the way in the back of the store. So next thing you know, he's just dragging. He's like, dude, come on, I'm like, oh, one more thing over here, and he was. By the time we got back to the car, he was pretty exhausted.
Well, you had him walking across a warehouse,
Yeah. Now I haven't seen Robert walk much. I've seen Juice walk quite a bit. Myself, I don't know about you guys, but when I walk at one speed, slow.
Yes.
And so a lot of times using the chair is about getting more things done.
More functionality.
My pride's not important.
Yeah, we were talking about this last week. Go ahead, Juice. You go.
I said I walk as if either I'm a toddler or I'm drunk. So it's happened where I've been at when I used to work as a karaoke DJ. One of the customers told the manager, "I don't think he's okay to drive home." Like, why? He looks a little intoxicated. Like, no, he's just disabled.
And we get that as SCI walkers. We get that.
Well, I know for me, my percentage of walking now is down way low because of the damages I've had to my shoulders and biceps and stuff. I never had surgeries, and my arms just get tired now. I'm closing in on 67 years old now, so that's has a lot to do with my strength and things like that. I struggle with my nutrition. I probably can do a whole lot better, but so it's my walking is diminished a lot. And again, I do what I need to do. I can, but functional wise, I'm a lot more functional in the wheelchair nowadays. And I got used to it. It's been 46 years for me, 47 years coming up, that I've been in the chair. So, it is what it is for me. And I still trying to remain independent and as mobile as I possibly can. Some days a little easier than others, getting up and out of the cars or transfers and things like that. But mine is mostly there's just the damage that I didn't really pay attention to when I was younger. Just kept kind of thought I was working through it when I was actually just doing more damage in the long run. So it's important to kind of
here's something I kind of heard, and we were talking about it before we got on live. And a gal used to come into my support group, and she didn't even look like no limp, no nothing. But unfortunately, she said, "You don't understand. It's the bowel and the bladder." And I kind of noticed that common theme with incomplete. And it seems like the more incomplete you are, you can't get that under control. Does that go for you guys too? Is it bowel and bladder?
Yes.
Yeah, Luis, you said no bladder infections, but bowel and bladder seems to be your number one issue.
No bowel or bladder control at all.
Well, what bowel is because as an L1 lumbar, your sphincter does not close up.
Yeah.
So magic bullets, it does not work, and I learned that the hard way.
Exactly.
So, like I said, nutrition depends on what you eat, and as long as you have fiber. For myself, I know what I need to do and what I don't need to do, and I honestly rather be more constipated than not because of the fact that that's going to help me. It's kind of like a plug. So just enough. Just enough.
Give me that high five, Juice.
There you go. Hey, no high fives. COVID found.
Yeah, COVID.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, you got to do the elbow. The elbow.
Yeah. Elbow. There you go.
Well, I know for me it's kind of always been an issue, and I have my problems here and there because I started because I always never used a catheter on my bladder up until about the last 8 years or so like that. I started using catheters because I think I was classified as the upper motor neuron bladder or whatever. So I'd go in there. And half the time, especially being on crutches and braces and not being really quick, half my life was wondering where the bathrooms were at. When I go someplace, I'd have to say, okay, there it is. Before I'd go sit down, I'd go, try to drain the bladder and all that, and then go sit down. And then before I left, I'd go do the same thing, a lot of crudday, pressing on the bladder and things like that. And so about 8 years ago, they were concerned because my bladder wasn't emptying out like it should and all that. And so I started using the catheter, and then I found out how convenient that was, and kind of using a mix between emptying my bladder and using cath. So that kind of, I found a home with that. So, but the bowel thing has always been a struggle with programs and getting them right, and find out what works for you, especially when I was working, my shifts would change. So I'd get a bowel program set up for working the day shift, and then for another 6 months, I'd work overnight. So then I'd just throwing me all out of whack. And so I kind of always had kind of issues where I'm conscious of that. And it's, then like I said, with walking for me, he's in a chair, I'm quick enough, I can get somewhere where I need to. With the crutches or whatever, I'm walking. So if it was raining, I'm always worried about the wet floors and things like that, because for me, psychologically, if the ground is wet, it was slippery, even though it really wasn't. But in my head, it was. So, it kind of changed my technique. So, yeah.
Juice, do you, Kath?
I don't, but I do if needed. When I say if needed is I used to drive an hour to work, an hour and a half. If I'm stuck in the freeway, can't get out, then that's when I do it.
Yeah.
Do you use Crudday in Valsalva like Robert used to?
What is that? Apparently I don't.
That's the pushing and then the straining.
Yeah, and your bladder.
No.
I use the same thing as Robert used to use, where you use your hands to push on your bladder, and then you use your core stomach muscles to strain down, and basically
kick off that way.
Yeah, you empty your bowel and bladder at the same time.
Oh, no.
Well, there's lots of times where when I was on the crutches and stuff like that, I'd go into the urinals, and so I'd be there pressing on the bladder, right? You're trying to get the bladder to drain. And then there's people like, well, what's this guy doing here? They had no clue, because I'd have to really, I'd empty, but then I'd have to press more on the bladder to stimulate it to kick off the rest. But people didn't have a clue, they were kind of like, weren't sure if they should get close to me or not,
You guys have sensation when you need to go to the bathroom?
Well, I have to go to the bathroom
I do.
now.
Yeah, I have sensation.
For the last 45 minutes, so yeah. No, I'm holding it. Sorry.
Well, Juice and I play live online poker all the time, and it's like almost every half an hour. I'll be right back.
Well, here's the thing.
I'll be right back.
Here's the thing. The thing is this. Now that you mentioned it, Robert, I have to. So, luckily, right now I've been okay, because my diet's been great. But then, Robert, when we were playing poker, my diet wasn't okay. So I would go to the bathroom every 45 minutes because I felt like I had to. It was like a bowel movement, and because I don't want to get in and have an accident, I would just go. Even if nothing came out, I would just go. Peace of mind. Yeah. And it happens a lot. So I would go to the bathroom at least 5, 7, 8 times a day.
Yeah.
And nothing will come out, but I'm just a peace of mind for me.
Yeah, because you don't want it to happen, right?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier about staying in that constant state of slight constipation.
Yeah.
Right.
To prevent from having an accident. And the great thing about that is, if you're, like you talked about, eating the right foods, that's about food interactions, where if you're conscious and aware, we always check our stool and our urine to see what color it is. Is it bad? Whatever.
Right.
The same with our stool. If you see that you're constipated, you eat a little something that day to help loosen you up for the next day. If you're a little too loose, you eat the right foods to firm it back up. And that gives you a level of control by using food interactions.
Yeah, and like the best way to understand, regulate that, as we've talked about before, is food journal. Make note until you have an understanding of it enough, in your mind. But just keeping track and noting what you ate, like in succession, and like how that food interaction works. And like, it's not that you maybe can't eat those foods, but maybe you just can't eat those foods one after the other,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
Moderation.
And yeah, moderation is key. That's for
Yeah.
everything in life, right, Robert?
Tweaking a little bit every day.
So do you guys have the diarrhea?
Yeah.
Once in a while. I did last week. I went to go out and make a peer visit with one of our new members and take him a backpack. And before I actually got to his house, I had an accident. I lost my bowels, and it was embarrassing. But after 39 years, it's something that happens occasionally. It's something that we have to deal with, and know that it happens to us. It happens to able-bodied people. It just happens to us more.
Well, you don't feel bad. You just get pissed off because just the timing.
Exactly.
I mean, it is what it is, but I wasn't pissed off.
The thing about it is like, as shitty a situation it is, pardon the pun.
Pun intended.
Pun
intended.
You can't let it ruin your day or rule your day. That's the biggest thing that I've had to learn and overcome is, if you do have an accident, if you do have a problem, it's deal with it, get over it, and move on. Because, I've let it wreck my day before. And, that's so much worse, I think, hanging on to that kind of stuff.
A story I like to tell people, because they're always worried about losing their bowel or their bladder in public. And years ago, I used to write game software for the gaming industry. And I went to a conference in San Francisco, and I'm speaking at the conference at a podium. And there's 1,000 people in the conference room at Moscone Center. It's the Game Developers Conference. And I lost my bowels in front of 1,000 people. And all I could do was just say, "Excuse me, I've had an accident," and ask someone behind me to take over. I went and took care of it, got myself cleaned up.
Oh, man.
Being experienced, I knew I had extra clothes just in case.
Cool.
All my soiled clothes went into the garbage. I never saw them again.
They were jinxed anyway.
Once I was cleaned up, I went back out on stage, and I explained to the people that were there, I said, I'm a spinal cord injury. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. I have some muscles that allow me to walk still, and having no bowel or bladder control is part of being a spinal cord injury. And it just took a few minutes to explain it to them, and everyone was very appreciative. I got a round of applause.
Yeah.
Maybe a handful or a dozen people. Excuse me.
This is going to go into my into one of the questions I have, which is skin issues. But I know, Robert, you had a colostomy for a short time because you had a pressure sore.
Yes.
And I know you went back to not having it. But,
right.
First you can talk a little bit about your colostomy. But then I also want to hear about, do you guys have skin breakdown, sitting in the chair too long? Or, anything like somebody driving to Vegas on a seatbelt buckle or something like that?
Me?
Yeah.
Me, because I'm a big guy, so I sat on the seatbelt buckle to San Francisco.
Oh, man.
But I used to do a lot of marathons in my chair and in my hand cycle. So with all the friction and with the sweat, I did develop a pressure sore on my tailbone. And I remember the next day going to the restroom and then taking a shower afterwards, and I was cleaning myself, and I thought it was toilet paper, leftovers, but it was a little bump, and I was like, oh man, it's a pressure sore. It was a little blister. So,
well, like for me, I had skin issues because I was, I didn't have spasms, so my muscles atrophied pretty quick, and no blood and all that kind of stuff. But I would. I tried to carry cushions around me, but not always successful at trying to do that. So I would sit on bar stools, restaurant stools, whatever like that, or different chairs. And, I have sensation, but so I fidget a lot, and I would stand up and move. But, it wasn't enough because with that bone, the ischial part is where I always had the problem. So I went through all that. And so now that I'm using the chair, to be honest with you, and I have the really good cushions and all that stuff, I don't have any skin issues at all, knock on wood. But before it was an issue because I got used to carrying a cushion with a strap on it, and I'd have to always kind of carry it like a backpack or whatever it is, because if I was on crutches, trying to carry it with one hand and hold on the crutches, and so it was always kind of an issue making sure I had it. Or if I went to a place where I kind of was a regular, I'd have a cushion that I'd just keep there. And but a lot of mine was just kind of not being really conscious of what I needed to do, because I was so removed from where I should have been involved with the community and stuff like that. I was disconnected, and there were things going on out there that I probably should have known about, just like shoulders and biceps and all that kind of stuff, skin care. There were new things out there that I didn't know about because I wasn't involved. And so I kind of paid the price for it, just like now as I age. I'm feeling it nowadays. And I didn't have much of an issue when I first got hurt. I mean, accepting things and dealing with it and figuring things out. But now aging and being close to 67 and dealing with stuff now is an issue now. I don't know if I would have got the surgery that I needed, all that, if anything would have changed in terms of strength and all that. But it's serious now for me because, just the transfers. I mean, a simple transfer for me that I used to be able to do with no sweat. And that's another thing, not being conscious of, you twist your arm certain ways and lift and move and it was because you're able to do it. Now, I look back, I go, why was I even trying that for? Why was I even doing that? There was no, I'm just really, really hyperextending muscles and joints and things like that, and it took its toll. So the walking piece for me, the walking piece is really hitting hard now just because of my aging and my damage.
That's kind of like one of my biggest fears, like, is progressing forward is, I'm like less than a week, it'll be 24 years since I've been injured on Saturday. And, like transferring a certain way, torquing my arms, like using my arms in a funny way, my shoulders and stuff. Like, I mean, I already feel it. Like, I already feel, like more pain than I probably should because of like that strain and pulling on tendons and muscles.
Yeah, that's it, tearing, little tears here and there.
Yeah, and, like now here I am, like, approaching like later years, of like being paralyzed. And I'm like very afraid of that toll that it takes. So I think, as Robert was saying, and I've learned too in the last 5 or 6 years, being involved in the disabled community, get out there and talk to other people and share with people
definitely.
You haven't. It is the most useful and
definitely,
like resource and tool to have just to learn, the risks and, like the wrong way of doing things, and like be aware of certain information, but also learn the right way to do things and how to try to change things maybe to protect yourself moving forward and things like that.
So since we're getting a little later too, do you guys have any advice for, newer people that are dealing with this, like especially for longevity and stuff like that and saving, themselves or anything, or any just other advice you can?
Pace yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Pace yourself.
Well, and I think, stay in touch and tune with your body. Listen to your body because it's going to tell you something. And, give your body rest. Don't it's always good to push yourself a little bit, but, just be conscious of if you're doing any damage. And one of the big things, too, is, and I need to practice this a whole lot, and you guys probably know it, is, like we were saying, nutrition. The nutrition piece is everything for us. I need to lose weight, and I've always kind of, get on a good start. I'll start losing weight, and then someone will say, "Oh, hey, you're losing weight," and before you know it, then I start going back to my old eating habits and things like that. But just staying in touch with your body completely, making sure you're keeping an eye on your body, checking your skin, and doing your exercises, stretching, and things like that. I didn't do any of that. I had a sore arm. It's just sore, but it was actually tearing or something. So I think it's important for any new injury to just take care of their body, man. You got to. It's not like, the able body, you can get away with certain things. For us, it's going to be the thing that you're going to be dealing with the rest of your life. So if you take care of yourself now, it's going to help you in the long run. If you don't take care of yourself now, it's going to hurt you in the long run.
And it doesn't have to defeat progress, by
Right.
being aware, like changing things or trying different things, like if you are struggling doing something and you like want to continue to like try to achieve that and do it regularly, talk to a PT, talk to someone about, hey, am I doing this right? And if I'm not, let's see if we can augment it so I'm saving my arms in the future.
Yeah.
Or like I'm using the right muscles instead of the wrong ones. And like set yourself up for success versus pushing yourself towards failure.
If you can stretch in the morning, do it.
Yeah.
Some TheraBand stretch.
Yeah, it's kind of, I
That's
started
something I've
working
done
out
all
in
the
the morning, and it's so much better. So much better. If you guys could do anything over again, and I know a couple of us have a few years, but would you do anything over differently? Use the chair more, less?
The only thing I do different is take my chair when I go to Sam's Club with you. That's it. That's it.
Nice.
To that point, and what you said about pace yourself, that's exactly what Jacqueline Perry told me. And she, for those that don't know, she was a lead physical medicine and rehabilitation specialist at Rancho Los Amigos. She said, walk when it's important, roll when it's not. And she said, because at your level, in the things that we've taught you, you could live a very long time. Don't wear your stuff out, like what Robert was saying.
Yeah.
Don't take everything as it has to be one thing or another. All walking, all rolling. Use both so that you can extend the life of your joints. Because just as people who push in a wheelchair all the time, over 15, 20, 25 years, you start to wear out your arms, wrists, elbows, shoulders. SCI walkers, we wear out our hips, our knees, and our ankles. And so the longer you can extend the life of those joints, the better. The longer you'll walk. Just today, I had a contractor here in my house so that we can finally make adaptations to my house. 39 years, I don't have an accessible house. But today I had a contractor here building me, or we were designing a roll-in shower, because at some point I won't be able to walk. Sometime these joints are going to give out. Those muscles will give out. I'm looking at getting a vertical platform lift, because all the bedrooms are upstairs, all the showers are upstairs, and there may come a time when I'm not able to do those stairs anymore. So I'm planning ahead.
Yeah, for me, I just burned out my body out, and I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't take care of it, so I burned it out, and wasn't conscious of how to properly twist my arm or extend my shoulder and all that. I just did whatever it took to get that transfer done, or to pull myself into a vehicle, or whatever. I burned my body out, and I'm paying for it now. I mean, I'm not crying about it now, but I mean, it could have been in a lot healthier position for myself. But I just went for it. I did what I thought I needed to do to be functional. And not that I was trying to do anything that I shouldn't, but that's what it was. I was in a different world for myself. And again, I think it's very important for new injuries to stay in contact with the disability community. I'm not saying you have to focus on it 100%, but there's a mix in life between what you do, and being part of the disability community myself, I needed to be involved with it.
So, you know what, Robert? I don't think it takes. I'm sorry, Sean. I don't think it takes to have a spinal cord to know that. People with a spinal cord or without a spinal cord, when they start getting in their 50s and 60s, are like realizing the same thing. Yeah. I probably shouldn't have gone so hard when I was younger.
Well, that's it. That's exactly. And like you said, pace yourself. I never paced myself. It was all, the switch was on. It was all for nothing. It was all going out for 100%, 110. Now I'm lucky I got 50 left, man. But that was it.
Going from a digital life to an analog life.
Yeah.
No, I was just No, that was it's fine. I just had a little mention that something, but you pretty much we've covered pretty much most of what I was. Yeah, we're good.
I beat you to everything today, I think.
No, it's perfect. That's what I wanted to have you guys do anyways, because I wanted to try to do more of the production stuff, and you guys have been awesome. So thanks, Tom and Bobby, for sure. And you guys, thanks a lot, Luis, Robert, Juice. You guys have been awesome on the show. Great guests.
Glad to be
a
part of it.
Everybody's enjoyed it.
And
shout
also,
out to the BPC crew. Shout out to the BPC.
Yeah. Inside joke.
Is that a rant? Is that
I
a
just want to
joke?
say it's great to be with you guys. You know,
before
all
we
you
end
guys, you're all my friends. I love all of you.
Hey, before we end it, I just want to say vita mutatur non tolitur. Latin for that life has changed but not taken away.
Good deal.
there you go.
That's good.
That's a beautiful way to
That's a good
leave it
yeah.
and carry it forward. Thank you, everybody that watched and commented. You guys are awesme.
Yeah, we love you guys.
When you guys get a chance, you can follow me on Instagram, Juice Mode, JUICEMOD.
Texas too. Texas Juice Mode.
Texas Juice Mode.
Yeah, so I do
Shout
have
out.
everybody's Instagrams in the description. If you guys do want to check it out, the links are. You can just click down there. You can see I got Juice Mode. The only one I don't have is Robert because I didn't have your. I don't think you had an Instagram.
I'm incognito.
Because
but you can follow the rest of us on Instagram. All the handles are down in the description already. And anything else you guys want to shout out? I know I always shout out Triumph. We're always talking about Triumph, but if you guys anything else you guys want to throw in, mention
Poker tournament coming up.
Kobe, Mama Day, Kobe, guys. Give it up for Kobe. Kobe. Get up
yeah,
for
I'm
Kobe.
down, Juice Mode. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a huge
Kobe.
Kobe
Bobby?
fan too, man. So
Also, shout out Live to Roll. None of this would happen without
Oh,
Sean.
yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, Sean.
Good man, dude.
Thanks,
Sean,
guys.
you still need to,
That's right.
Sean, you still need to get that license plate.
I will. Maybe I'll just get a hat like Juice Mode's right there instead.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, guys. I'm gonna end the stream.
Definitely.
Guys. Everybody, thanks for watching.
Everybody
Appreciate
hit
you
the
guys
like
coming.
button if you're watching.
Please like,
Subscribe.
subscribe if you
We'll be
haven't
back
already.
next week.
And
All right, guys.
follow
I'm going to go
everybody,
calf right now.
and we'll
All right.
be back. Yeah, everybody's out of here.